Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to Walking the Earth. Today we are in Konya, Turkey, at the Mevlana Museum, which is the shrine of Mevlana Jalaludeen Rumi, who lived from 1207 until December 17th, 1273. So that's about, I think, 749 years ago. Next year would be the 750th anniversary of his urs, his wedding day with the beloved, his joining, his going back home to Allah. And this was a Mevlevi monastery, basically, and so it's turned into a museum, and so you can learn a bit about the Mevlevi dervishes, the Sufi order, and how they organized themselves until the Turkish Republic was founded and the Sufi orders were banned in Turkey. And there's a sign not far from here that points toward all the Mevlevi hanes, or the lodges of the Mevlevi order. And they are found in Lebanon, in Macedonia, in Egypt, in Syria, in Yunanistan, which is Greece, and so in all over Turkey. They were found for several hundred years, and I'm not sure just how active they are nowadays compared to in the past. I know that you can see the Mevlevi whirling dervishes here in Konya on Saturdays perform as more of a cultural enrichment activity, and less so as an active spiritual activity or spiritual practice, although people still do train. I don't know how public that is. So the Mevlevis, the name comes from Mevlana, or Maulana, our master, which is the title given to Rumi. Now, Jalaludeen Rumi, he's called Rumi because this area was historically called Rum in the Muslim world, because this was where the Byzantine Roman Empire was located until it was taken by the Seljuks, beginning about 1,000 years ago. As the Turks moved into these territories. Now, Muslims had been making their way into Anatolia since the days of the Rashidun Caliphate, and certainly during the Umayyad era, and had holdings here since very early since the 700s at least. So a little bit about Rumi. Rumi is a Khorasani, and his family comes from Balkh, up on the border of Tajikistan and Afghanistan. According to my understanding, his father was a great Hanafi jurist and scholar, and Maturidi scholar, as well as a mystical poet. And inside the shrine, you will find the tombs of Rumi and his father, and I believe 6 of his father's close disciples who followed him from Khorasan, and then also Rumi's son, Sultan Valad, and many of his descendants who are called Chalebis. And in here you will notice that because of these descent lines, they're all Khorasani. So this is a Khorasani location. And here we've got the wudu fountain where people make their ablutions before praying. There's a masjid inside. If you look directly behind you, here, this is an Ottoman era masjid from Sultan Selim, I believe, from his era, Selim the Grim, I believe. And it's a very nice masjid, and I'll go over and visit that shortly, inshallah, and discuss it a little bit. But this monastery compound, this museum, has many graves of the heads of the Mevlevi order and descendants of Rumi. And here, these graves right here, these are the ney players. Now, the ney is a flute, a reed flute that was much loved by Rumi and is utilized within Mevlevi ceremonies. I'm not particularly knowledgeable about it. I'm still learning these things, but it is very beautiful. And when you go into the shrine, you will hear the ney played as you make your way through. And in the museum, you can take an audio tour and learn more about the people who are buried within. There is a Semahane where the whirling dervishes would spin. And my understanding is that this was a practice that Rumi utilized while he would spin around columns and recite spontaneous poetry. But then started to be refined by Rumi's son and his spiritual and genetic descendants. It's a very lovely museum where there's much to learn. A little bit about Rumi. He's very famous as an improvisational poet. He would he would spin and then he would recite spontaneous poetry. He also would write some of his verses and then add improvisations, and then scribes that were his disciples, his students, they would write down his poetry, and much of it was compiled into the Masnavi, which my understanding is it's really a brilliant Persian commentary on Quran and Hadith, and various stories of the prophets, peace be upon all of them, and the awliya. May Allah be pleased with them. So you can, and he also wrote poetry that was in the Diwan of Shamsuddin, who was his spiritual enlightener, his teacher, and who has a turbe very near here. There was an Indian sheikh who traveled all the way from Hind and to come and be near Rumi, and he was apparently a master musician, and Rumi and his students would go and visit with him often, and inshallah I'll go and visit that turbe soon and do a video about that. So it's interesting that he was known in India in these times several hundred years ago, and so he was good friends with this sheikh, and he would go and visit him, and he would listen to the music and converse with him. Also, part of his spiritual circle was Sheikh Kanawi, who is buried near here. Sheikh Kanawi was the stepson or adopted son and close disciple of Ibn al-Arabi, the great Sufi from Andalusia, who is known for founding the Akbari school of Sufism. And so he was, Sheikh Kanawi was good friends with Rumi as well. And since Konya was the Seljuk capital, and many scholars and students of the spiritual path would come to visit these locations and visit with Rumi and converse with him. This was at a crossroads along the Silk Road, and the Silk Road connected many different Muslim kingdoms. The various Seljuk groups, and then the various the Ayyubids were nearby, and anyway, so there's much more detail about Rumi that I'll get into in other videos, inshallah. I need to learn much more. If you have any insights or recommendations for resources, scholarly works, works of poetry, translations, please put it into the comments. I'm very interested in Rumi. Rumi is also called Balkhi because he originated in Balkh. Like I said, he's a Khorasani. He was from Greater Khorasan, and the Khorasani tradition is preserved not only within the Mevlevi tradition, but in various traditions that he influenced. He had an impact on many of the Sufi orders from the 1200s onward until present day, such as the Chistis in India. And he has roots connected to the Kubrawiya through his father. And he was influenced by the Ghazali brothers, as far as I'm aware, Imam Ghazali and his brother, who were connected to the Nizam, to the institutions in Nishapur, the university there. Anyway, so I'm just enjoying a nice, cold, snowy day in Konya here in December. At the beginning of winter. So we'll go ahead and draw this to a close. But until next time, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.